So, all right, we're good. We're good. Okay, before we move ahead, guys, I would like to write the 9 steps of estimating. I know Phil and Rob, you guys are going to be doing estimating for us for this project. I would like to write, guys, summarize, and they're in page 20. If you want to follow up, it's page 20. I want to keep reminding us what we're doing. We're doing estimating in 9 steps. So if you guys don't mind me sketching here a couple of these steps. Step number 1, understand scope of work. Why is it that big of a deal here? Understand the scope of work. Step number 2. Anybody can tell me what step number 2 is? Step number 2. Take off. Thank you. Step number 2, take off. Step number 2, not take off, Chad. Take off. Take off. Step number 2, take off. Step number 3, bill of material, right? Of material. Step number 4, pricing and livery. Pricing and livery. Pricing and livery. And laboring is not giving birth here. Pricing and laboring. Estimate summary. Estimate summary. I'm going to summarize in here. Estimate summary. After estimate summary, what do we have? Step number 1, 2, 3, 4. But no, extending and totaling. We have to do extending and totaling first. Do the math. What's extending and totaling, guys? Do the math. Extending and totaling. Extending and totaling. Number 6. Step number 6. Estimate summary. Summary. Step number 7. I hope we have enough room for it. Profit. Profit. Applying profit. Step number 8. After you apply profit, bid accuracy. And that's what we're going to do today. And analysis. Okay, check. Bid accuracy and analysis. And the last one is what? Bid proposal. Bid proposal. Any question, guys, about these 9 steps? This is what Phil, my friend, is going to be doing with us. Excuse me. So the bid accuracy. So understand the scope of work. We did yesterday, we talked, guys, about understanding the scope of work from specifications, doing the specification as well as the understanding the specification and the blueprints. The scope, takeoff, measuring and counting, measuring feeders and branch circuits, as well as counting components. Bill of material, everything that you took off, guys, you're going to put it in a sheet, Excel sheet, that's called bill of material. Then we're going to assign a price for every component, like we did yesterday, and labor for every component, our labor, like we did, labor units. Then we did the math, extending and totaling. When we did these, guys, we did them yesterday, all these up to 5 steps. We did them yesterday, and we called them, the estimate. We call them the first 5, we call them the estimate, including actually the estimate summary. Today, any question, guys, about the first 5? The estimate, actually, it takes the estimate summary with it. The first 6 is called the estimate. After you apply the profit, it becomes bidding. The estimate versus the bidding. Any question, guys, about the takeoff, the scope of work, takeoff, bill of material, pricing and laboring, extending and totaling? What I'm going to do in this chapter, actually, this chapter talks about estimate summary, a little bit in more detail. So what we're going to do, everything that we did, I highlighted, we did yesterday. So today, what we're going to be doing, my friends, we're going to talk about the estimate summary here, the profit, and we're going to talk about the bid accuracy and the bid proposal. These are the four things that this chapter is going to be talking about. Every one of you guys, every year, you're going to be doing estimating for not every year, every quarter that you go with me, you're going to do estimating. When we do estimating, you're going to be following. I rotate the presentation from team to team, so you're going to be following these 9 steps for every estimating that we do. So please write them, put them in one location. It's going to be on the test, on the final. It's going to follow you from now until you graduate, step by step. Any question, guys, about what I wrote before? I just want to tie the chapters that we covered so far into what we're going to be covering in chapter 5. Chapter 5, estimate, summary, and bid. So what we're going to be covering is these 4 things that you can see in chapter 5. Any question, guys, about this? What I wrote actually is written exactly the same in page 20. In page 20 of this book, in the right-hand side, right-hand side, the middle right-hand side, it's written in page 20. Okay, any question about this method? Any question? Okay, moving on. So what we're going to be doing today, Zach, my friend, is we're going to talk about the estimate, summary, and bid proposal, which is the last 6 things in this step. The last 6 things. The first thing, estimate, summary. A few things you need to know. In the estimate summary, everybody knows where the estimate summary fits in these 9 steps. There are 9 steps. We're looking at the step that says estimate summary, which was step number 6. Thank you. So we're looking at step number 6. Cool? Everybody's cool with that? Step number 6, we're analyzing it now. Estimate summary. A few things you need to know about estimate summary, guys. How to adjust labor for job conditions. When you reach the estimate summary, you can ask yourself, like we did with NECA 1, 2, 3 labor, are you going to be adjusting them based on labor units or not? How did it determine total labor cost, including labor burden? Now, Chris, this is where we cash. Remember, the estimate summary has hours only. This is where we cash the hours into dollars. Cash the hours into dollars. You're going to see it's interesting. Change the hours into dollars. Determine material cost, including miscellaneous, waste, and theft, and so forth, including some theft in that one. How to get the best fixture and switch gear. The codes. The codes. We're going to talk about the codes because codes, we don't take the codes, guys. We don't do takeoff for the codes. We count them. We send them for codes. We'll talk about a little bit about the codes. Direct job cost and small tools and equipment rental added. And overhead, we need to apply overhead now. We need to apply overhead. And the last thing out of the whole deal here is very important thing, my friends. It's going to be the overhead, really. If I get mine to work here, I have the overhead and I have the, there you go. The overhead and the break even. The overhead and the break even cost. The overhead and the break even cost. Any question, guys, about this? I'm going to add in the bid summary, I'm going to add all the stuff that I did, put overhead, put direct jobs, and come up with something called break even cost. A couple of things, I'm going to put them right here. A couple of things, guys, about the estimate summary. You have to do some judgment, intangible. There's a worksheet. I want to go directly into the worksheet without all this one. Let's go to the worksheet. The worksheet is going to include, the summary worksheet, it's going to include labor hours, labor cost, material cost, direct job cost, estimate prime, and as well as the estimate cost. And we'll look at it right here. So your estimate summary, let's do a different color. When you estimate summary, I want you guys to look at, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 things that's going to be in my estimate summary. Labor hours, how many hours? 200 hours. Say, labor cost, 200 hours multiplied by $50. That's your labor cost, right? Labor hours, how many hours? Labor cost is multiplying it by but the dollars we're going to pay them $50. We'll talk about how to decide, is it 50 or 55 or 52. We'll talk about this one. Material cost, the material cost is $2,000, right? I already did the extension. We already did the extension. We add the material. We're just listing them here. Direct job costs, I have a permit I need to pay for this job, and that permits for the city is $1 grand. Estimate prime cost, guys, is adding them all together, adding all this and putting them right here. Add them up, that's they call it estimate price, right? Overhead, I'm going to apply a 20%, a 40% overhead, 40% of this number, 40% of this number, and then estimate cost is actually the prime plus the overhead, the prime plus the overhead. That's it. You're going to see it in the sheet. Very easy, very simple.
Excuse me.
Hi. Thank you. Thanks, guys. So, any question guys about this? Remember the hours that we did extending and totaling for them? Net, we bring them here. We call them the labor hours. Then we cash them into dollars. We're going to assign a dollar value for the labor hour. No problem. Then we add the material cost. We know how to get the material cost. We did the takeoff and laboring. We'll get that one. Then direct job cost, extra other costs I have to anticipate. I stick them in here, if any. Then we have the estimated prime cost. So add all this top stuff and put them in here. Then add 40% or so overhead. That will give you your overhead in dollars. And then add the overhead to the prime cost. Can you guys see the prime cost? To the overhead, it will give you the estimated cost. That's the value that you're going to go to town with. You're going to go to town with and add a profit on. So I want you guys to look at page, let's go directly into page, because I want to look at a good example. Let's go, please, directly to page 68. What you're looking right now is at page 68. Okay, so let's follow this one. This is the whole chapter is about this page. Okay, so I need to pick on my friend, who's I'm going to pick on? Rob, where do you think this number came from? Let's look at this number. Where do you guys think this number came from? 81 hours. It's an 81 hours. This is my labor hours right here. Can you guys see the labor hours? Where do you think the labor hours came from? From pricing and laboring. Remember that sheet that we did in chapter 4? We did a sheet of pricing and laboring. When we took off the material and we assigned an hour value for them and we added them all up. Remember the totaling, extending and totaling? When we totaled the hours, they came up to 81 hours. Any question where the 81, guys, this is very important to understand because the sheets that I'm going to give you for the project follow exactly the same logic. You're going to be looking, the sheet they're going to be doing for our project follow exactly the same logic. You do the takeoff, you put them in an Excel sheet, you count you add labor to all these components, you extend them, you total them, then you bring the total to a sheet that's called summary sheet, right? How many receptacles times how many hours you need to install them, how many lights by how many hours you need to install them, add all the hours. For this job, we have 81 hours. Any question where the 81 came to be? Please, this is what we're going to be doing for your project, guys. When I release the Excel sheet and I walk you through it, that's exactly what the Excel sheet that you're going to have is looking at. Any question where the 81 hours came from? It came from the pricing. Can you guys see that? The pricing and labor right in here. The pricing and laboring sheets. Okay, very important to know where these came to be. Very important to know where they came to be. Any question else about the $81? Okay, now we know it's $81. We extend and total the hours for all the job that we're doing. Take this, then. Labor adjustment, miscellaneous. I need to adjust, if any. The second one that you guys are looking at is called labor adjustment. I need to adjust because of conditions. Remember that we talked about yesterday, limited access, weather, you name it. There's tons of factors that affect the labor adjustment. Because of labor adjustment, as a project manager, I looked at all things considered and I said, you know what? I'm going to go increase my labor by 8%. Okay? So this is going to be coming, can you guys see the 8%? So what is this value here? This value came from where? From increasing the $81 by 8%. So take 0.08 multiplied by 81.08, multiplied by 81.02, that will give you 6.4, right? 6.48. Everybody knows where this value came to be? Taking 80% on your total hours. Cool. Second thing, then the second thing they did, they added them up. This is basically adding the two together here. Added them up and they put them right in here, 87.5 hours. Total adjusted labor hours, it's adding the $81 to the 6.48 because of adjustment. They added them. The sheet that I'm going to give you in Excel is going to follow the same format for your own project. Okay, you guys with me? Add them up. Then additional labor costs. Then I discovered, then look at that. Then I discovered I have to go rent something and hire somebody to operate some other equipment that's not accounted for. And I need to add more labor to do this. If any, it doesn't have to be. So additional labor for other things that haven't been anticipated, I'm going to add 9.5 hours. Who decided what to add? You as a project manager. So in this project, they added this value. Can you guys see this value? And here's where it came, 9.5. Do you have to add it? No. Additional, you discovered that you have to do more work because of whatever circumstances. You added 9.5 hours. And then you added these two together, and your final number that you're going to take to heaven with you is this number, $97. $97 is the total, it's the 97 hours is the total amount of hours that you need to do this job. Any question? That's for this is the step, can you guys see step A, where we talk about step A, total adjusted hours? So we adjusted the hours and we put them in step A. Really, step A, B, or C, it doesn't matter as long as you adjust them. The reason why I want you guys to follow the steps for one reason, because you are going to be using the same sheet for your own takeoff project. So if you're taking off things and you don't understand how the sheet works, if you understand it now, when you guys look at the Excel sheet, you're going to be looking at a very familiar thing. Any question about the labor summary? Any question about the labor summary? Okay. Up to this point, guys, the labor doesn't mean anything, Rob. I need to cash it. How do you cash the labor? I'm going to assign a dollar value for every hour. So look what they did. They assigned, and you probably, some of us laugh at this 10.65. Where do you find electricians that work for 10.65? I would like to hire some of them. So they assigned the value of 10.65 per hour, man hour. How do they come up with this 10.65, guys? There's job average and shop average, and I will go over this one in a second as we go through. For the time being, if you are I don't know, union shop or something, and you want to bid a job, you could put, for all practical reasons, you could put a $98 here instead of this one. That will include, if you put 98, that will include your overhead, your profit, if you put it here, profit, overhead, as well as your labor, and you are a union shop. Because as a union shop, my friends, what is it, 54, I think $54 now that they bring home. So you have $54 right here just to cover the dues, union dues, the health insurance, the benefits, the retirement, and all this good stuff. I think it's 54 in 292. Is it? 58? Okay, let's change this one. Maybe my info is all 58.50. So it's 58.50, right? Is that Rob? 58.50, right? February 27, 2010. Okay, so 58.50 is the dollars. This include, that's the man hour that you're gonna be including here. They adjusted, guys. They adjusted slightly. But for this, for all practical reasons, we're multiplying, just to understand the process, they're multiplying by 10.65. So where did they come up with this number? Where did they come up with $1,000 to do this job? By taking their hours and multiplying it by the dollar value. Now, Ashley, if this is your job, and you guys are going to do it 97, and you're going to bid this job at $60 an hour, non-union shop, you guys are working, want to bid at $60 an hour, or what you have to do, take your hours and multiply them with 60. No overhead, nothing in this case. I want to remind you guys, they don't have any overhead yet here. This is just the cost of the material. No overhead. Cost of the material. I mean the cost of the labor. No material yet. The cost of labor. Overhead will come. And no profit. No overhead, no profit. Yes, sir.
And that's just one journeyman. What about adding in your apprentices?
Thank you. Very good point. You're going to do, that number is going to be an average of your crew. Well, let's this number here, I'm going to take this number here. Let's take a realistic, I have a crew of 50, 850. And what's the apprentice one? Do you have that rate for it?
2340.
2340. It's 15340 and another at 15340. Add them up. I have a crew of one journeyman, and 2 apprentices. I can't do more than that, right? By law, I can't do more than 1 journeyman, 2 apprentices. Add them up for me. Anybody do you have a calculator handy? Anybody can add them guys for me? So let's go to 58.5 plus 23.4 times 2 equal, divide by 3 equal. I came up with 35. By average them. I want to add them up. When I added them up, I averaged them. What's the total? Did you come with the total? How much? 105. 105. 105. And then you take the 105 divided by 3. You came up with 35. 35. 35. Right? Divided by 3. Why 3? Why did I divide it by 3? I have 3 people working on it. So Phil, my friend, this is what they call it, the shop average. That's your shop average. That's your shop average. When we have softwares, guys, the software that we have, it assigns a percentage of work for every journeyman and every apprentice. So you actually slice it more. But if you have this sheet, you need to have a shop average. The shop average is 2 apprentices and 1 journeyman working together. So you're going to bid this job at 35 without profit or overhead yet. Without profit or overhead. If that's your crew. If you have multiple crews, you divide them, the same thing. Add the money that you're going to be paying them for that job, divide them by their number, and that will get you the job average. I'm sorry, the shop average. The shop average. If your shop average is 35, then you're going to put this number where? Right here. You're 35. The problem with these numbers, as we all know, guys, these numbers include the benefits, everything, right? The only thing it's not included is the overhead and the profit. So, for all practical reasons, you can change the 10 for us here to 35, and that will give you very close to the truth. Now, take this: if you are a non-union shop, and you're going to pay $25 an hour, right? Electrician, $25 an hour. Give him one more $5 for benefits, health, and so forth. So you're sitting probably at $30 an hour for a journeyman. $30 an hour. Apprentice one, you pay them $12. So do an average for 35 plus 2 12s, and you bid your job, and you add your profit to it and your overhead. So see how the difference can be substantial different. Now some people take this number, the 35, double it. Phil, you double it, becomes 70. That includes your overhead and your profit, and you bid the job at 70. 78, you can start playing with that number. Because remember, this is just your cost, not including your profit or your overhead, your project manager, you working with the project taking off, that's not included here. So you need some money to pay the other people who are not carrying the tools. This money is just for the people who are carrying the tools. Cool? So a good rule of thumb, if this is your average job, multiply it by 2, that will cover your overhead and everything else with some profit. So if you bid at 70%, you don't need to add overhead and benefits and so forth down here. Any questions about this? And feel free to argue with the number. I mean, I'm not worried about now. Every company, guys, have a number like this that can stick for the labor hours. You can have this number in two ways. We'll talk about these. Either way, they call them job average or shop average. Shop average, add all your electricians that are working on that job, divide them by their number, multiply them by how much are they paid, divide them by their number, give you a dollar value for an average Joe in your bill in your company. That's going to be how much it's going to cost you.
That's the job average or the shop average?
This is the shop average. The job average, you keep track of all your expenses for 6 months. Well, I'm going to talk about it later, but there again, shop average, take your people who are working for you, multiply by how much you are paying them, divided by their number. That's shop average. Job average, you are working on a project, multiple projects, right? Keep track of all the hours of every electrician in your job. That's easy. And the expense for them, right? It's easy. Divide them by their number. Divide the expenses that you paid for your electricians by the number of the electricians. That will give you how much, by of course, how many hours they worked and so forth. Then you come up with a value, $1 per hour for your crew, one person of your crew. The most important thing here is not this number, guys. This number is going to vary from company to company. The most important thing is what we do with this number. We take this number and we multiply it here. So we get $1,000 for this job. Any question about this number? Any question? I'm going to go erase this just to allow some room here. Okay. Any question, guys, about this number? So we came up with a job average of 10 here, 10.6 job average. Feel free to put 35 job average. I told the students to put 35 in our project. Okay, after that, now this is the amount of money I'm going to pay the electricians. Let's go down to the material. Material. Take for the material. I want, who's going to help me? Tell me, where did the $1,825 or $26 came from? Where does this money came from? Now we finished the labor. The labor, guys, is already finished right in here. Can you guys see it? Right here. That's my total labor. Done, 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 done. And we know how we came up with this. I'm gonna go to the material. Where did I come up with the $1,826? Thank you. Take off pricing. When you took off all your receptacles, what did you assign to them too? You assigned the labor and we assigned the material price. That's coming from the pricing and laboring sheets right in here. Okay, done, Chad. We know where this came from. Then miscellaneous. I added 10% miscellaneous on the material. I added 10%. Everybody knows when you add 10% to the number. So where did this number came from? The $182. Miscellaneous things that I might forget, so I threw $10. You don't have to. If your estimate is accurate, guys, and you know that you counted every single thing in your material, you don't have to throw another 10. Okay? Here's 10. Take this. Feel free, and Chris, please feel free to agree or disagree with all this here. Waste and theft, 5%. They suggest that you account for waste and theft 5%. Somebody busted the receptacle while they're working it, they're going to throw it and put a new one, right? And that's a big job. Things happen at the job. The wires, tying the wires to the receptacles, you cut it too short, now you have to pull a new wire. So all these, or things walking away, wires are walking away on the job, so you assign 5%. Small tools that you need for this particular job, assign 3%, and everybody can see everybody knows where the 10% this number came to be, so you take a 0.1 multiplied by 1,825.9, and that's where you got the 1820, right? Everybody knows where that number came to be, the 10%, then the 5%, then the 3%. Gear. I'm going to talk about the gear in a little bit of detail here. Switch gear. This one I want to highlight. Any question, guys, about this so far? Any question about this? Complicated? Easy? No? Phil, what do you think? No straightforward, no? Serious, I'm not. So now we got all these. Feel free to agree or disagree with them. You can put 0 for theft if you want to, because that's increasing your price. The one that I'm going to bring a lot of attention to is the gear. The gear. What is the gear and the codes? Anybody knows what a code is? In the electrical industry, the major electrical equipment, because they are very expensive price-wise, and instead of taking them as a component, they price them as a lump sum. For example, light, notoriously famous of being coded. So you count all the different type of light, the lighting schedule that you guys did with Chad, that lighting schedule, with all the types and the number of the lights and the description, you send it to 3 to 4 vendors. And those 3 to 4 vendors will give you a quote, a price, a lump sum, bulk price for this, for all these fixtures together. Why? Because fixtures are expensive and they could vary from one vendor to another. So you want to take advantage of the bulk. So you quote them. And you always send them to 3 or 4 people to get you the quote, right? The best price, because they're expensive. I don't do that to the receptacles, you know. So that's number one. The number two, the quotes, fixtures. So quotes, the first thing is fixtures, as in fixture, as in lighting fixture. The second thing that's very important, guys, when it comes to the quote is gear. They call it the gear, the switch gear. Switch gear is all the major panels. All the panels, all the transformers, all the battery chargers, all the UPS system, all the PDUs, all the MCCs, all the switchboards, all the switch gears, all these major electrical equipment, they call them a gear, the gear. They will be coded most of the time. You send all the schedule, the panels, all your panels, the amp, the voltage of every panel, the gear inside the panel, the receptacle, circuit breakers in your panel, so they can build them for you. As well as transformer size and all this stuff. You send them in a gear code. All these mechanical, you send them to Colorhammer, Square D, Siemens, and those guys will come up with a detailed code for you. They will tell you all these equipment, 15 panels, 25 transformers, 2 generators. Well, generators usually go to a different vendors, but let's say 1 switch gear, 1 transformer, all this, we're going to code it for you for 50 grand. Cool? So the second thing is they call it the gear.
And what does that do to your labor estimate?
Very good point. Gear. The gear is all the equipment. The equipment. Now, very good point. We add them as a material, and then we assign a labor only for them. So when we take, in a project, guys, in a major project, when we take a fixture like this, when you take the fixture, you take the fixture as labor only. So there's a possibility of turning, but 0 for price. Because when you take a fixture in estimating software, they have 2 components you have to control. One is the price of the component. No problem. I can make it any price I want or follow the schedule. Usually I put 0 for fixtures. Why 0 price? Because I'm going to quote them and leave the labor. So this fixture will be taken in the software. It will be assigned a labor hours, but it will be assigned as $0 for a price. Why $0? Because I'm going to add them at the end as a lump sum. So yes, it will be assigned. We have to take them in the software and assign the labor to install them. But dollars for pricing them, $0. Why? Because they're going to be quoted at the end. So suppose I have my quote right here. I have 0 for quotes, guys, but you can put your quote. Suppose we have a $3,000 for this, for all the lights, as well as all the gears. For the sheet that we have, Rob, my friend, it's really kind of icky when it comes to the codes. You have to put them by yourself. The software that we're going to be using, McCormick allow you to go to a standalone sheet that you can add different codes, code for the low voltage, code for the, you slice your codes more. So you know what each one of these codes for the generator, code for the panels, if any, codes for the fixtures, code for the UPS, because there could be different manufacturers. So it's slicing more, a software. For this little sheet that you guys are going to be using with your friend Chad, we're going to lump sum them all and throw them in this area. Any question, guys, about this? Phil, does it make sense, the quote? Then, we in the state of Minnesota love taxes, so what do you need to do? Then you're going to add all your material right here. This number here, add all your material and put them 2 grams. Remember, I did not have any quotes. The quotes is not there. By the way, this is a mistake in your book too. You have to make sure that you have the quotes when we reach it. Pay attention to the quotes. So we add them up, and because we work in a country that taxes, rightfully so, you want to add 7% tax on it, or whatever you tax in the area that you're into. So here's my tax, and the final material is going to be this number. When you add all your material, tax them, and add the tax to the cost. Any question, guys, about the 2 numbers? I have a final dollar for the labor. Can you guys see that? And a final dollar for the material. Final dollar value for the material. Any question? Okay. Final dollar. This is the last thing. So that's step C. As you can see, we're following all these steps that you. Step C. Step D, guys, direct job cost. Now, when I'm done with all these, I bought my material and I know how much I'm going to pay my employees. How about permits? Other costs, direct job, just directly to the rent. I need to rent equipment for this job. But that's material, is not labor, is not here, not here. So they allow you to put it way at the end, and they call it direct job cost. And Chris, I hate to defend this sheet, but this is one way of organizing things. It doesn't mean it's the perfect way. You could have taken this number somewhere else with the materials. But it makes sense though, because it's not going to be taxed, right? It's not labor. So it's make more sense to add it at the end as direct job cost. What would the direct job cost be, guys? Direct job cost right in here. They threw $100. Permits, minimum permit. You need to pull a permit, minimum, right? To do the work. If it's a small job, you throw it at the end as a direct job cost. Maximum could be renting a trailer. It could be the electricity they're going to consume for this project. It could be the other rents that you need to rent, excavators. You need to rent whatever, machines. Any question, guys, about the direct job cost? Cost directly to the job. No, not material, not labor. Just we're renting or paying for the city to inspector and so forth. Any questions about D, step D? Okay, this is where we add everything together and call it, very important, at least in this book, it's called the prime cost, estimated prime cost. Estimated prime cost is adding the labor, the material, and the direct job cost, right? So they took the 2,300 and they added 100 to it. That's the prime job cost. That's your prime job cost. Up to this point, if you don't have overhead and you don't want to make profit, that's how you bid the job. The estimated prime cost. Cost of all the labor, cost of all the material, plus cost of direct job. Direct things related to the job. Okay, done with here. The second thing that we need to do is, as you can see, so here's my direct job cost. Let's go to step F, is overhead. The single most important thing is overhead. Now I will add my overhead. You can add the overhead 2 ways. You can add your overhead as hours, dollars per hour, or you can add your overhead as a percentage. Dollars per hour or as a percentage. For example, Phil, if you are a union shop and your overhead is built in your hours, when we did the hour right here, guys, and we said we came up with an average 35, and I told you, hey, double that one, make it 70, bid your job at 70, that will include your overhead. In this case, we're not including overhead, so you can add the $13 for every hour for overhead. So take this. So here's a 10.65. Now my labor costs more than that because I need to manage it. What's overhead? Overhead is the cost of managing the job. So I'm bidding the job for, what is it, 23, yeah, 23.50, 23.7. If you add this value, 13 to 10, the $23 is what actually they're bidding the job. because of the overhead. Two ways of applying overhead. One is add a $13 per hour or percentage. Percentage, they suggest 20, I think 30 to 40%. 30 to 40% on your overall value, the prime cost, as your overhead. If you are a CA Electric and you're running your business from the back of your truck and your basement, your overhead is going to be as close to zero as practical, right? What's your...
You got this other partner we seem to have forgotten in most of this, and he's called Uncle Sam.
Yeah,
It's got his bits in unemployment compensation factor.
that's that's
Workers' compensation factor.
yes, that will be.
Unemployment.
You're absolutely right. That's a lot of
Missing.
yeah, a lot of unions, they do that one through the burden. They add in the software that we're going to have. Unfortunately, that's going to be next quarter, guys. The software, not the Excel sheet. They have it as standalone burden. They call it a burden. So, and you can assign a 13% or whatever burden to that one. Here, we're going to we're recouping everything through the overhead. In this sheet, it will recoup all the unemployment, insurance, and all this good stuff. There's a lot of insurance. It's going to be recouped through the overhead. Okay, 13. So they added 13 per hour. So where did this number come from? You take the 13 here, multiply it by how many hours do we have? 97. Everybody can see that? And that will get you 1,200. That's overhead. This is my overhead. Okay. I don't know about you guys, but we work for money. So we need a profit. So I can go take my family to Hawaii and swim a little bit. I don't swim, but sit there and read the NEC code book for me. You can do it in Minneapolis, Chad. I have to go to Hawaii to do that. So profit, they're assigning 15. If you're making 15% profit, you're in a good business these days. Profit, now it's up to you. In a market like this now, my friend, are you kidding me? 15? You're going to make a 15% profit over all after you covered all your expenses? If you are, here's where if you're a CA Electric, and you are the electrician who got paid this amount of dollar, the owner of the company, you and your electrician got paid, you recouped all your unemployment insurance and bond and all this good stuff, and you gave yourself zero overhead. That's okay. I mean, you're floating. You're floating. So that's why overhead, they say 15%, add another 15% for overhead. That's when the market's really good. Now, if you can recoup, 3 to 5%, you're good now. Okay, so this becomes 0.15, multiply this by your prime cost, estimated cost, which is 4,699. That will get you want to make $700, close to $700 overhead after you pay all your electricians, after you pay the people in the office, the insurance, everything. You're going to make $700 goes to your account as an owner of a company on this job. You can do two things with the overhead. You can feed them back into the business, as you know, Chris, or you can take them and go to Hawaii. All right. Then, when I put my overhead, my total number that I'm going to be bid this job for is $5,400. That's that job. So when I add this job to my bid proposal, it's going to be $5,400. Any question, guys? This is one of the most, this summarizes the whole chapter, really. One of the most important things is at reaching this point is to the bid price. Any question, my friends? And I want you really to understand this. I know some of you guys might never be estimators ever. So, and work and be very successful engineers and designers and so forth. There's nothing wrong with that one. For those of you who are going to work in an engineering firm, in a contracting firm, and want to be an estimator, understanding this process is very essential. This is just the beginning, by the way. This is just scratching the surface. You're going to see as we move on with the software, it becomes easier because now we're using everything you can. It's basically a window, pages. You grab the profit here. They allow you to actually tax the labor if you want to. Tax labor, zero labor tax, or because accommodation for all these states and so forth. Any question, guys, about the summary sheet? This is called the summary sheet. What I want you to know, my friend Tao, is I'm going to give you an Excel sheet. The Excel sheet that you guys are going to have has 17 tabs in it. It's not as complicated as we were doing math. The math in it is not complicated. The math is at all not complicated. The sheets are, though. How to understand. There's 17 sheets in one file. And all these sheets are tied together. So you're going to have multiple sheets for takeoff, then move the multiple sheets for pricing and labeling, multiple sheets for, after you pricing and labor, then multiple sheets going to be, or one sheet for the summary, and then you take it from there, you're going to take it all the way to the bid proposal. The summary is this one, to the bid proposal, and you're done. But there's multiple sheets for takeoff, multiple sheets for pricing and labeling, and then you carry all these sheets into the bid summary. And when you reach that number, 5,400, done, you write it in a bid proposal. I'm going to show you right now, and off it goes to the bidding process. Any question? Do I trust that you guys understand this particular sheet fully? Because you're going to be looking at it in an Excel sheet. You're going to be doing.
Who produced the ones that we're going to be using?
It came from Mike Holtz.
Oh,
Mike Holtz, yep. But you need the math, and it's very simple. So I'm going to depend on you guys to massage the math. It's meant for one house. We're using for an apartment. So do your math. You might have to add, and the math in it is very simple. It's not really complicated. If you haven't, I'm sure you did link tab to tab. That's the hardest one, is to link tab to tab. Link math from tab 15 into tab number 1, which is very easy to do. Any question, guys, about the summary worksheet? We're done. We got the bid proposal. We got the bid. We're going to go stick that bid in the bid proposal. So that's what this chapter is all about, really, that particular sheet. So what I want to do, I want to give you guys 5 minutes break, and I'm going to walk through a couple of other things in this chapter. But that's what I want to spend more time on. If you understand this sheet, you will understand everything else downstream. Any question about this? Any question? No? Okay. Let's go ahead, guys. So what the whole chapter here is talking about, all these A1 through B. So I'm going to work through them. Labor adjustment, as we said, you need to make sure that you adjust and recoup based on all these things. Adjusting the total labor hours, you must consider if there are any of these things, you need to adjust your labor. So based on all of them, as built, demolition, energized parts, and so forth. That's why, remember how we adjusted our labor? We increased it by 10% at the beginning, because there's one or any of these following. Labor cost. How much is it going to cost you guys? We have labor rate per hour. Here's where I want you guys to wake up. When you assign labor, we know what the labor cost is. Assign $1 for man or person hour. But how do you come up with this? We say there are 2 ways. I want you guys for the shop average and the job average. So do me a favor, will you? I want you to go, because this is important. I think it's important. If you guys go to page 71, I don't want to write this on the screen. Page 71 in the book. In the bottom right-hand side, page 71. You're going to see that shop average labor. I want you guys to look what they did. They started in April through September. April, May, June, July, August, September. 6 months. Now, Rob, my friend, here's what they did. They keep track of their labor cost. They keep track of their labor cost and the hours each month. Labor cost and hours each month. Can you guys see that? So in April, they paid $14,000. 14,200, and the hours were 1166 hours, total hours of all the people who are working on this project. The same thing in May. You can see in May all the way to September, right? Then they multiplied, then they have the rate. Then they have the rate per month. If you can see, look, in the rate in April was 12.2. In May it was 10.65. In June it was 9. So it varies. Right? Can you guys see it varies? Which one are you going to be using? The one in May or the one in, if you go to September, it was 9. In August, it was 11. In June it was 9.8. Phil, do you see that? So what they did to stuck with one number, they actually added the 6 months, all the money that they paid for all the 6 months, and they divided them by all the hours that have been utilized in the 6 months, and they came up with the 10.65. That's called the shop average. Any question, guys, about the shop average? You keep track of your labor dollars and your labor hours for 6 months. Divide the labor dollars by the labor hours. That will get you $1 per hour, a dollar value per hour for every man or woman that works in your company on an average. On an average. I want you guys to remember this does not include your burden. This does not include your burden. So you're going to have or profit or overhead. That's just the value. You still need to add an overhead and a profit to this value. An overhead and a profit to this value. Any question about this? How, my friend? No? Okay, I want you guys to go to page 72, please. The second one is called the job average. The job average. The job average, I probably explained them wrong, the other way around, did I? The job average versus shop average. The job average, in the job average, you take the crews that you have. Look at what they did. The job average you take in page 72, the upper right corner. You take the crews that you have. I have a foreman, I'm paying him $14 an hour. I don't know where you find a foreman for that. Foreman, $14 an hour. Journeyman, 12.25, and apprentice, 9. Now, all what you have to do, Phil, my friend, is just add the numbers that we have here in our area, okay? And do the same thing. And then I have 1 person for foreman, 1 journeyman, and 3 apprentices for a total of 5. And then you add how much money each one of them is paid. You add them up, right? And you divide them by their number. And that's where they come up with 10.6. So 1 times 14, 1 times 12, 3 times 9. Extend them, total them, divide them by 5 because there's 5 people crew. The way we did it, Phil, my friend, we added 2 apprentices and 1 journeyman. We came up with 35, and we said that's the value that you're going to start with. And of course, you're going to add the profit and the overhead to it. So if you double that one, that will get you 70. You're close to the truth. Anybody, what value do you guys use? Do you know what the dollar value? 70. A lot of people, guys, have around 70. From what I hear, we are hovering around 70. See it actually, but I know other people, especially now, not service calls. Service calls, you can go $90 and $100 and so forth. These are just bidding a job. Any question about the shop average and the job average? Shop average and job average. Okay. So that's your shop average. The burden. In the burden, guys, it just talks about this one, exactly what we talked about, how NECA assign, NECA contractors include these costs as part of their labor. So, Ashley, my friend, when we said, remind me, Phil, one more time, was it $58.50? The $58.50, that's a NECA price. $58.50, that includes the burden. The only thing that $58.50 does not include is the overhead and the profit. $58.50 is including everything. Now, rule of thumb, if you want to put the overhead and everything, some people double this number to get you, if that's your shop average, if you double it, but that will give you a very high value though, because not all of them are $58.50. Can you give me the burden for an apprentice 1? What's the apprentice 1 again? 23?
Yeah.
40? And an apprentice, the cheapest, another apprentice 1, 23.40, right? When we added them and we averaged them, we came up with $35. We came up with $35. That's an average with burden, average of these 3 together, 35. Double this one, guys, to get you overhead and overhead and sub profit, get you 70. Now you can spice it up, make it 80 if you want to, but you're running around this number.
That would be just 1 cruise on a pool, yeah, 39.
Yeah, if you have a bigger job, yeah, you're gonna look at the crews that you're using. Yep. How many journeymans? That's why right now who's working? the apprentices. Have you ever asked yourself why apprentices are working and journeymen are not working? Here, the job average, or yeah, the job average. Job average is getting cheaper. You know, an apprentice if you have especially year one apprentice and year two, these are cheaper. 23 versus 58. And apprentice 4, they go 4 or 5. Apprentice 5 is 80. What is it? 80% of this value, so very close to a journeyman. How much? 52.65 is apprentice 4 or 5? 5. Apprentice 5 is a journeyman without a license. Anyway, so that's where you guys have to decide your crews, and there's labor agreement and so forth. But that's for the NECA. If you're a non-NECA contractor, then you're going to recoup your burden. If you're a non-NECA, you're going to pay your electrician. Here's my electrician. I'm paying my electrician $25 an hour, a journeyman. I need to add something on that guy, another $10, say for benefits and insurance, and if I'm giving them even another $10 to add for that one. So that'll get you $35. $30 to $35 will cost you as a non-union electrician. That's the only thing they're going to pay, the benefits, the burden of that. And then, of course, you're going to put your overhead and your profit over there. Does that make sense, guys? So $25, this is bring home with you. $10 benefit or burden. This is bring home. When I say home. And for a total of $35 or so. And every company is different, but that will give you some idea. Any question about this? The most important thing is the burden. The software that we have, guys, will add the burden separately. Total cost material, we add them up as you can see. Accomplish you make the necessary adjustment, a couple of things, material theft. Remember how we looked at the theft and small tools and so forth? We did that. Direct job cost, we talk about direct job cost like here's a list of things that you guys have to keep in mind for direct job cost. For example, as built. If after you design the building, who's working, Nick, my friend, after you design the building, the contractor is supposed to provide an as-built plans. Well, how are you going to account for this? They're going to go back to the office, redesign the building based on as-built. So if they change circuiting or anything, you guys were doing as-built, didn't you? So you're going to recoup this money. Where are you going to recoup it? That's direct job cost, part of the direct job cost. So a couple of other things, field office, fire seal, guarantees. You can look at any or all public safety if you have permits and inspection. How about that? Parking fees, if any, if you have to do some parking fees there. Storage area. All these will help you as a project manager to add more direct job cost to that particular project. I don't expect you guys to memorize them. As a project manager, that will be a list on you. When you start doing your project, after you finish everything, say you're going to ask yourself, do I have this, 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 this? Because of all these factors, you have to assign a dollar value for each one of them. So, for example, permit inspection. I know we have to pay $200 for this. Recycling fees. I know from the couple of jobs that we have done, we have to do some recycling fees, hazardous material, and so forth. And I'm with $2,000 for this. A storage area. We have to store some switch gear, some equipment. And I know you have to know if you're a project manager how it's going to cost. Make a couple of calls. There's $1,000 here. 1K. Put that dollars and so forth. Any question, guys, about this? Any question about this? Testing and certification. How about if you're going to do commissioning? Who's going to do the commissioning? When they're commissioning a building, actually, they need electricians to be there to open things and help them. Who's going to pay for that one? So that's what you're going to be using for estimate prime cost. You're going to add them all up. Remember how we added all these babies together? We added the labor, material, plus the direct job cost. And overhead. Now we added the overhead, 2 methods of overhead. Method number 1, guys, overhead, we said you're going to add, he suggests $13. $13 per hour, or what is it, 30% to 40% overhead. And thank you, Chris, for reminding us, overhead is not just the office. Overhead is going to include all your licensure stuff, all your insurance, Uncle Sam insurance stuff that you have to do, bonding, insurance, labor agreements that you have to do, unemployment and so forth. I don't know for how small businesses they run them. If you're a big corporation, you pay a lot of things for unemployment. If you're a smaller business, I'm not familiar with what they do for.
They call an experience ratio, and
Yeah.
you have to report what you paid someone, and based on your experience, how many people have gone unemployment, that rate keeps going up.
Yeah, the more you lay off people, big hire, big fire, they pay a lot of insurance for their unemployment. Okay, any question guys about the percentage method versus 13 versus 30 to 40 per man hour? Okay, we got that one. Understand break even. Break even cost, that's how much is going to cost you. Up to this point, guys, how much is going to cost you to break even, right? So here's my break even cost. French's. Yeah, I'm second. Go ahead.
Please, I don't know whether you gonna, pay bonds for every job that you bid, or you pay bond once as a company.
Oh, you pay bond?
Yeah, is it on every job you bid for?
Well, there's a bond that you have to keep with the state as electrical contractor, $25,000. Every electrical contractor in Minnesota has to maintain a $25,000 bond with the state. That's to be licensed as a contractor. Then after, they don't even pay it. They buy it like insurance. You don't put that one. You buy an insurance for it. They buy. Yeah, it's like insurance. You buy an insurance. The people who provide a bond provide insurance, almost provide a bond for you. So you pay monthly or whatever you
Well, it isn't
arrange.
really like insurance, and all it is some company that is a recognized certified bonding.
Bonding
company
services.
Says that if something happens that requires payment, they will pay it.
They will pay this
They
amount.
will guarantee to pay it, but it is not insurance in that.
But
they-
you have to
they
pay for it.
collect from
That's
you.
what I'm
Yeah.
asking. Is it a one-time payment, or you pay it?
The way that I have to ask the electric, the way that you have to pay for something though, for them to stand behind you
Yeah,
and support you.
absolutely. And
That's what I'm saying with payment. I think you pay every time. I have to ask CA. I think you pay every time you do insurance. You have to pay a chunk of money for the bonding company that bonds you, regardless of you use the bond or you don't use a bond. So does that make sense? So the company, as you said, the company would say if you screw up and you don't do, we can cover up to, based on the state, $25,000.
And that's like an annual thing.
Yeah.
And then most jobs of any consequence will require a bid bond
Yes.
and a performance bond.
Yeah, and then you get into the whole agreement, and yeah, you have to put 10%. Certain jobs they require you so they can get the riffraffs out of the picture. They require you providing a 10% bond or so.
The company, in order to start a state license, they require a bond.
Yeah.
If they have one-
No?
Okay, and then everything you did.
Take this. $25,000.
Yeah, I don't understand. What I mean is that you pay it.
No, you don't pay $25,000. You pay for the bonding company. Say I can't remember. Say the bonding company that's going to it's like insuring you. If you have any problem, that's going to cover you up to $25,000 for a bond. They pay them a year. Every time you renew it, I believe you pay them depending on the agreement. But I think it's yearly, as you said. Every time, so when you renew your license, you have to provide the bond to the state. You go to the bonding insurance, the bonding company is going to bond you, approved by the state, and to get the bond paper signed from them, they say you have to pay them $200 a year. I'm just picking up this out of a hat. $200 a year to use them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They're taking, it's like somehow like insurance. They're taking a chance on you that you're not going to screw up. If you screw up when you pay $200, they're going to pay $25,000. It's like the life insurance. You pay, I don't know, monthly, yearly, whatever, this amount. But if you drop, then they pay you up to this amount. So that's what I said in terms of like an insurance.
Yeah,
We understand.
except that if the bonding company pays, they then go after you for the money.
They get it from you.
Yeah, your wife gets $100,000.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it.
And the end of it, okay.
They don't go back to your, dig you up and pull $100,000 worth of body parts out of you and sell you like they do with bonds.
So as a bond, they have to go after you to get the money.
They're just taking the question about whether they're gonna get paid out of the equation. They know they're gonna get paid by the bonding company, and
Then the bonding company has to,
collect from you.
and there has to be an agreement. Yeah, I see your point. I see your point. Unlike insurance where you're paying and
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's much cheaper than insurance, because
they're
they
getting
have a
they're getting their
percentage
money.
Covering from you, but like
Yeah.
life insurance, they obviously.
They can liquidate your company and take their money out of it. Good point. Any question, guys, about this part? Any question about this? We want, and this is really everything that we covered here is in page, the sheet that I walked you through, the first sheet. That's everything that we covered so far in part A. Before we go to the bid process, this is in page 68. Everything that I covered at the beginning is right in here. Okay, moving on to the bid process. Now remember the bid summary. We need to go all the way to the bid process. Bid process, a couple of things, guys. They call it the bid process because you add a profit. We're going to add a profit to it, to the final cost. We're going to make money now. And common mistakes, we're going to verify the estimates and bid accuracy and bid proposal. So I want to highlight a few things in this section. You need to apply a profit, bid accuracy, and we're going to do a bid proposal. Right? Just add the profit and do the accuracy and bid proposal. Profit. Here's what they suggest the profit. Can you get this profit now? Anybody can look at this profit. Can you get this profit in this market? 15 to 20% profit. I would divide this by 5 and then say if you get 5, probably 1.2 to 5% now profit, you're good to go, man. That's after you cover every single thing. If you get 1.5 to 5% profit, then you're good. Do you have to have a profit to stay in business? Do you have to have a profit to stay in business? No. You can float. You can break even. If you paid your bonding, your insurance, all your electricians, your car, everything else, you don't have to have a profit. But you need the profit to go to Hawaii and read the NEC code book there. Other costs. Any other cost that's not anticipated, here's a few things that you have to keep. Way at the end, you still add another cost, guys. A couple of other things to keep in mind that you could add costs for the bonds. Here's your bonds. Completion penalties. How about if you were supposed to finish in a year and you finish in a year and a half? There's going to be a lot of penalties. Somebody have to pay for that. So a couple of things to keep in mind, guys, that could add other costs to you. And the last thing is bid accuracy. So we got the number. The bid. When you get your number, $2 million to build this job, do you think you're going to go sign it, put it in a piece of paper, sign it, and send it? See, that's our legal document now. You need to analyze it. So you have to make an analysis. I want you guys to go to page 79. Let's look at page 79. And let's look at page 79 and see what you want to keep in mind for job accuracy. In page 79, they have a few things to have to ask yourself. Number one, assuming standard grade receptacles when spec said specification grade. This is a common mistake. Anybody knows what the spec grade receptacle versus a standard receptacle? A standard receptacle, guys, 33 cents. A spec grade receptacle, $3. Spec grade is more robust, better type of receptacles versus residential type receptacles. So if you're taking just receptacle, taking them assuming they're going to be non-spec, almost all projects, guys, are spec grade receptacle. They are the higher level, commercial type receptacles. The same 15 and 20 amp receptacle. One of them can be $3 and one can be 33 cents to install in your basement. Now the 33, they change it. It's going to be $1.30 because of the tamper resistant. Okay, errors in multiplication. So there's a whole list, guys, that you can go through it. Leaving page out of the total, not double checking all figures, omitting section of the estimation. So they have a whole list that you have to ask yourself. Using improper estimating forms, using suppliers takeoff quantities for quotes. Use suppliers takeoff quantities for quotes. Rely on verbal suppliers quotes. Then when you get to a written, for quotes, guys, you always get them written because when the When they tell you $25,000 for the switchgear, they write it, send it to you. They are committed to $25,000. You add them to your bid. When it comes to the point of buying the equipment, they will get you the equipment within the $25,000. Wrong extension. So there's a whole lot of things, guys, that you can do for bid accuracy in the page. Any question, guys, about bid accuracy? Read through them. Common sense for project managers when you become a project manager. Bid analysis. Any question about bid accuracy? Make sure that you didn't mistakenly. And that's why, if you guys remember, when we talked about the an estimator, methodical way of doing things, organized, on time, all this good stuff, that will cut on the mistakes in your estimates. After you do the accuracy, you need to do bid analysis. Bid analysis, guys, there are two ways of bid analysis. I want you guys to go, please, to page 80 in the book that you have, page 80. Page 80 has a few things that you can do bid analysis. Number one, you take the labor, the percentage of the labor. Can you guys see that in the bottom right, left of page 80? You have labor percentages. So my labor percentage is 19%. Now, Chris, if every job that you do, the labor was 25 and all of a sudden the labor is 19, that's a flag. Flag one. See why this, with historic data, that becomes a great way of analyzing your business. Material. Your material, every time you do a job, it's 50%, and all of a sudden it's 40. What are we doing wrong? So that's another flag. Direct job cost, overhead, the percentage-wise from overall, and profit. It gives you all this stuff. So number one is the percentage of these types of, from labor to direct job to profit into the material. That gives you guys a flag. I know, Ashley, you talked about doubling the material to get you the labor sometimes, and these are very, very important, guys. Rules and flags that a project manager will look after you do your estimates, and that's easy to do on average to make sure that you did what you're supposed to do or you made a mistake. The second one is cost per square foot. That's easy. Take the square foot of the cost of the building, divided by how many square feet of the building is. So take it, my friend. Here's, it's 2.15. If every residential building you do, it's $7 a square foot, and this one was $2 a square foot. Wouldn't you think, Phil, that you'd question, say, what have we done wrong? Guys, here's what project managers do. They look at these percentages, and if you are higher, most of us, if you are higher than 10% plus or minus, this is a flag of what we normally done. If you're higher than 10% plus or minus, it's not you're wrong, it's a flag. I need to dig more and see what are we doing that our price is higher. Maybe the copper went up. That's as easy as, well, hey, the copper price went up. That's why we're higher. Good. Check. Move on. I mean, it doesn't mean you made a mistake. Yes, sir?
Is there a specific percentage approved for this?
There is no specific percentage. You, as a company, will collect historic data about the projects that you have done over the years with all these percentages and use them as a gauging and benchmarking as you move forward. So you have to depend on, and there's also means. It's not like, you're right, there are industry standards like means, books means. It will give you the average square foot, dollar per square foot for a commercial building is this amount. So you can gauge yourself against industry standards. Yes, means, I'll show you guys the means book. I have them in my office. I do them in a commercial though. It gives you an average value. Average though, very, yeah, just an average. Okay, so we did square foot per dollar. Another analysis that we guys do is labor analysis. How many hours you need for this job, how many days, and how many weeks. That's important to compare it to the historic data that you do. Any question, my friends, about the bid analysis? So square foot, percentage for the material and the labor, and the hours and the weeks and the months that we're going to spend, compare them to the historic data for this type of project. Now, if you have never done a project, what are you going to compare them with? Nothing. The closest that you can get is means. Means book, you're going to go look at means book and say, what are they charging per square foot right now for electrical? And you can find this information in means book. For mechanical, electrical, wood, you name it, for anyone. Okay, so that your bid analysis. Any question, guys, about We did the accuracy of the bid. We analyzed the bid. The bid check, done. So what do you do after that? What are you going to be doing after you do, after you, everything is okay? What do we need to do? We need to put this particular value and go put it in a bid proposal. So do me a favor, my friends. You're going to go to page 177 so we can look at the bid proposal. Page 177, if you don't mind. We're almost there. Page 177. Are you guys there? 177. 177. Okay. Here's your bid proposal. Every company, guys, have a bid proposal. Bid proposal, page 1 of 2. There are 2 pages, front and back. The first thing we're going to have submitted by. Who's going to be submitting it? The company, and attention, and the address, and all this good stuff. The date. Submitted to. So submitted by your company. Submitted to who? To Dunwoody College of Technology to do the job for us. And then, can you guys see that? Submitted by, submitted to who? Bid proposal, how many pages, and date. Basic. The software that we have, Jackson, my friend, has multiple proposals that you can pull from. I mean, this is just one form. So, go back down to the job. Job. What type of a job you need to do? You have to describe the job, where the job is located, the owner of the job, and so forth. Scope of work. Very important. What do we need to do? This is where inside you add in the proposal what you are supposed to do. If you guys look at this, it says complete electrical installation, including the installation of lighting fixture. As simple as this. Now, Phil, my friend, a lot of people would say bid based on specification and blueprints. Based on the specification and the blueprints for this job. And in the specification and the blueprints, you're going to find all the details. Most of the time, it's complete electrical installation, including the installation of lighting fixture, based on the specification and the blueprints. And it's nice to date them, published by this date. Okay, so scope of work includes. What do you include in this one? A nice description of what you include. For example, the temporary electrical service pole, blah, 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 all this description. Plans and specification. Proposal is based on the blueprint and the specification, if any. See how they catch, how they save yourself. Now, I am basing this money based on the blueprints E1 through E12 and the specification, the set of specification. And issued, you see the issue date on it? Very important. So, you know, you lock yourself with the blueprint. Chris, help me here. These are for the lawyers. This one is really for the lawyer. If a disagreement over $2 million, that will bring your company down the drain. That's what we're going to take to a lawyer. A lawyer is going to say, well, you signed this. You know, it really, most of the time, guys, it doesn't mean a whole lot if you have a good relationship with the owner and the engineer, because we work around things, simple things. But if somebody's to screw up big time and we are not in agreement, nobody owns up to it, we're going to go to the court. That's where this jumps in. Okay, so so we have then the price. Can you guys see the price? $8,000. That's the single most important thing, right? And then payment schedule. Don't you think I need to schedule how am I going to get my money out of this guy? So William, my friend, the slab inspection. The minute that we put the concrete slab and put our conduit and bonding, I want you guys to give me 20% out of the bid. Then rough end. When we do rough end for the building, I would like you to give me 55. And when we do final inspection and we give you the key for this room, I want the leftover, which is 25. You can divide them in so many ways, guys, floor per floor and so forth, but at least you need to have a plan of payment. Otherwise, guess what? If the job is going to stay for 2 years, you're not going to be paid for 2 years. What do they call this person? You're going to have a lack of fluid, currency, cash, thank you, that's the word I'm looking. Cash flow problem. You're going to have cash flow problem. Because you have to borrow the money to pay the electricians. You're not going to say to the electrician, oh, by the way, you're not going to be paid until we get the money out of the owner. So you have to pay a lot of attention to the cash flow problem. Look at this one, payment not received. If you don't pay me within 30 days, I'm going to penalize you too, because I'm going to go borrow money from the bank to pay, right? So if you guys read through it, it says 1.5% per month. I'm going to penalize you, charges, if you don't pay me within 30 days of the payment. Acceptance proposal, then this proposal is accepted if it's signed, if not accepted within, okay, this proposal may be withdrawn if not accepted within 15 days. I don't want you to go put this proposal on your desk for 2 years and sign it, and they say, okay, now you guys send it to us, right? It's not. Within 15 days, it's not accepted. But why? Everybody knows why. The price change, everything changes. And who's going to be accepting it and the date and so forth? Change orders. Look at that. If we have change orders, we are going to charge you $45 per hour for change orders. It says change for extras will be based on a labor rate of $45 per hour. And plus material, of course. Cool? All right, go to the second page, will you? Page 178. 178 has what's not included. Remember how the proposal is supposed to do what you need to do and what you don't want to do. If you guys look at the back of that page, page 178, it says individual with authorization sign this, and then electrical contractor shall not be liable, and have a list of things that you're not liable for failure to perform if prevented by strike, labor, accidents, acts of God. Is not we're talking lawyer here, right? Is there a war? There's somewhere a war too. So if the Russians or the Chinese wage a war on us, we did not complete the job, we're excused. So anyway, this is a law. Exclusion. This proposal does not include concrete, framing, painting, patching, trenching, and a bunch of other things. Lighting fixtures and equipment supplied by others. So they have a list of things. Price includes installation of lighting fixture, blah, blah, blah. Material and equipment. They have requirement for this, national and local code. Electrical installation shall meet the national electric code. Errors in design by the architects and or engineers are not the responsibility of the electrical contractor. That's exactly what the engineer, you know what the engineers do? In their blueprints, and the specification, they say the responsibility of adhering to the electrical, to the national and local codes, state and national codes, is the responsibility of the electrical contractor. And they made the contractor sign this. So here you go. Now it is a fight. Well, we think the switchgear has 2 feet clearance in the front of it. And oops, we forgot, and now we have 1.5 feet. And that's 4,000 amp switchgear. Somebody have to dismantle it, push the wall 2 feet in. There's labor involved. And that's interesting. When I read that one, it's always interesting because the engineers write and they expect the opposite of that. Okay, so other contractors, bunch of other things, and warranty. I like the bottom. Where's warranty? Warranties apply exclusively to the electrical installation of all these things. Warranty does not apply to the material. Blah, blah, blah. Warranty, where's the date? How many days? 1 year. The warranty is 1 year. Warranty does not apply if any payment according to this proposal, blah, 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 due, including charge orders. So 1 year. Warranty does not apply if any payments according to this proposal become past due. So if you don't pay me, I'm not going to guarantee you anything. Any question, guys, about this? That's your bid proposal. Guys, when we teach, the contracting, Chris, and project management is taught in 4 years. How to write a contract, a legal contract, and how to do project management. 4-year class. We touch on just the surface of that one. We're not graduating project manager, so to speak. We give you a few tools that you can use to become a project manager and estimator. But you got to use the tools though. Any question? Any question about this? So we did the 9 steps. We end up with a bid proposal. You guys are looking at bid proposal. Okay, the last thing, I have one last thing, guys, on this. So we got all these bid accuracy and so forth. So I hope by now, all of you, my friends, you know the profit and you know the bid accuracy and the bid proposal. That's all what this in part B. Part C, guys, talk about unit price. Unit price. Let me tell you how simple that is. A unit price, guys, as simple as you're a developer, Jackson. Your company is making development in the city of Lakeville, for example, and they're going to build 25 residential units. And I'm going to bid them based on unit price of, electrically speaking, $9,000 a unit. Unit price. So the developer take your number and multiply by 25. and that will be the amount of money that they're going to owe you. They care less about what you're going to do. Of course, there's specification you have to meet, but you go by $9,000 per unit. Any question, guys, about this? The one that we're using here is, as a matter of fact, the example that we're using, the unit price that we're using is for a service factor, a temporary wiring. So if you guys go with me, please, my friends, let's go to page, and this doesn't take that much, guys, just one page here, all the way to page 83. If you look at page 83, they're trying to find a unit price for a temporary wiring. You look at the structure. They basically have a 100 amp panel with a meter that mounted on wood structure where you throw it in the back of your truck, Ashley, and every time you go to a new job, if it's a smaller job, you take it from your truck, you mount it, ground it, bond it, bring the service to it, and off it goes with temp wiring. Cool? That's what they're doing, a unit price. That's a good example for a unit price because you need a temporary wiring almost everywhere you go. So that's including the wood, the structure to build the panel, the meter, bring the power to it, ground it, and bond it. Very important to ground and bond. Have a couple of receptacles in the panel so people GFCI'd can plug them in. That's called temporary wiring. So every time you go to a job, you have to assign a certain amount of dollars for this temporary wiring, called unit price. Look at the unit price. Basically, for unit price, guys, you do the same thing for unit price. You're going to do the same thing exactly like if it's a takeoff. You do it as if it's a takeoff from step 1 all the way to step 9. For scope of work, determine price, labor, extend total. And let's go directly into adding things. If you need to add things to adjust the labor too, you have to add it, labor unit adjustment, exactly like if you're doing a takeoff. Okay, here's what I'm going to want you guys to wake up if you're sleeping now. This is what they're doing for this service temporary power. They're having a temporary power. It's 100 amp. It has 12 circuits and 30 amp 240, 4-wire, and 220 amp 120 duplex receptacle. This is nothing compared to, this is not the one that you do for a stadium, obviously. That's a small residential, commercial type work. That's not a stadium type. So that's what your single phase, as you can see. To install this, guys, you need to assign a value that every time you go and install that piece, it's gonna, we have unit price of $330. For this one, you need a $330 unit price every time to go to a job. So if I am coming to your building, no power in your building, and I need to establish power, temporary power from the utility, I need to add $330 to that job. That's direct job cost as a unit price for this structure. So what they did, guys, is, see, I want you to look at figure 5-1. 5-1, I don't know if we have it here. Here you go. So if you look at this, what they did here is they did exactly a takeoff. They have the weatherhead, how many of them want, and the cost. The cost is almost $400 for 100 of them, except I only have one. So it's going to cost me $4 and labor $35 for every 100 of them. Oops, I have one problem. I have only one of them, so it's going to cost me $35. They did an extension. They did a takeoff, laboring. Here's my laboring. Here you can see the labor. Here's my laboring, and they did pricing. Where's my pricing? Here's my pricing and laboring and extending. Here's my extending, and at the end they did the totaling. Can you guys see that? They did pricing and laboring, extending and totaling, exactly like any other bit. Look at this. I have a 2-pole breaker. I have one of them, $10 for each. It's going to cost this amount to install it. Ashley's very skilled. She takes 15.15 of an hour to install it. Each one, it's going to take, for that one is 0.15 of an hour to install it. Does that make sense? Then they added all the labor here and all the material. That's what the takeoff is all about. Takeoff. We did the takeoff, pricing and laboring, exactly like any other project, right? Cool. The only difference, yes, sir. The Which one are you looking at? I'm sorry.
Or now,
The number, okay, I have hop number 3, okay. They're assigning a 50 feet on average. Yeah, 50 feet average. Now, if you have 100 feet, you're gonna eat that price, basically, yeah. And that comes, now, if 50 feet is not too bad. I mean, most of the time, the power is gonna be somewhere in this area. Now, if your experience would say you need 70 feet, that's where you put the 70 feet, or 100 feet. Remember, this is not a residential. This is not a commercial service. And thank you. And here's how much it's going to cost you per 1,000 feet. You extend it. And here's the amount of time it's going to take you to install it. 0.34 hours to install 50 feet. Make sense? Add them all up. I mean, I feel free guys to agree or disagree with the numbers, but you agree with the logic, right? Everybody knows what the logic is. They are assigning hours and dollars for all these equipments and extending them. That's what estimation is. The good news is, Chris, when you have an estimating software, you wouldn't see this. This is all in the background. The extending, you pick certain things and assign it. You can change it if you want to, but if you don't want to change it, the minute that you pick a receptacle, it's assigned to it a dollar value and an hour value. And all what you have to do is just pick how many of them, and it calculates everything for you. Okay, so this is takeoff. Then, look what they did. This stuff, guys, this stuff is going to stay for, I think they're assuming 6 installation. They're assuming that you can be able to use this for only 6 times. After 6 times, what's going to happen? Dismantle. Every time you mount them and dismount them, mount, dismount, and dismantle, what's going to happen after 6 times? It's going to fall apart. They're going to start building that from scratch. That's the assumption. Okay, then these stuff you need every time you install it. Every time you install it, you need to do all this stuff. That's why they put them in a separate. This is called installation detail. So that's every time. And if you look what they did at the end, guys, for the summary, they add them all up. So they added the labor. They assigned the dollar value 10.65 cheap labor, huh? They added the material cost and divided it by 5 times. Why do you think the material was divided by 5? Because they're going to be able to utilize it. They're going to be able to utilize this 5 times. 5 times. After 5 times, the assumption is you throw it, buy new material, and start over. Now, if you can pull 10 times out of it, that's money in your pocket. Okay, so that's why they divided. If you guys look at page, if you can, could you please go to page 84, please? Go to page 84. Then they did the labor cost calculation, then material cost. The labor cost, they added 7.4 hours divided by 5. Why do you think they divided the hours by 5? Because they're going to be using it 5 times. Then they added the installation time. Why do you think the installation time had to be added at the end? Can I divide the installation time by 5? No, because every time you have to install it, you have to put the time, right? So they added it. You end up with 6.5 hours. Multiply by 10, $69 to set that baby. Not bad, huh? Then they took the material, divided by 5, and then they added the installation material, which changed from time to time. They came up with $84. Then your labor cost $69, material cost $84. The rig job cost $50 for permit or something. You end up with a prime cost of $203. Overhead $13. Break even $287. I want to add 15% profit on this, believe it or not. I'm reading from the bottom of page 84. And finally, you're going to end up with this baby here. $33. So they did a whole takeoff on one little fixture to come up with $330. So every time I have a job, I throw $330. That including overhead, profit, material that will be installed and used 5 times, as well as material that's going to be installed every time. Any question, guys? That's what they call it, unit price. Similar to the unit price is service calls. If you have a service call, changing service, if you have a changing service from 60 amp fuse panel into 100 amp circuit breaker panel. That's typical, guys. A lot of people will give you, you're going to get in there, change the service, change the conductor out here, and we will, right? Typical, for the most, for residential, typical. 60 to 100, I'm going to charge you $1,500 for this. Think labor and material. That's a unit price. Labor and material. There are people who can make it for half of that too. Right? You're going to buy a panel for $80 and a bunch of receptacles. Now it's getting a little bit higher because of you need to put the arc fault, and they're $37. It used to be $7 each. So your material, you can put all these material, guys, within $400 almost, and then labor and all this good stuff. So that could be a unit price. Changing service from 60 amp to 100 amp. Any question? Okay, do me a favor. This chapter is very involved, so I don't want you guys to lose for the homework. For the homework, I want you guys to look at the following. Could you please go to page 88? This is very important for the homework they're going to be doing. Okay, so can you, so this is the first one is 1 through 16 bit process, and the other one 1 through multiple choice 125. Okay, 1 through 16 and 1 through 25. Okay, I want you guys to do this completely. Make sure you do that, and make sure you do these two. That the last one here, the last one is very detailed. The last one, guys, is very detailed. Question 19 through 21. 19 through 21. Can you guys go to 19 through 21, please? 19 through 21. What they want you to do is they want you to do takeoff. What I don't want you to spend, and feel free to do that, what they want us to do is fill all this, do the takeoff. So you're going to go, since we're going to be doing it for our project, I don't overwhelm you. So what you're supposed to do is you go to the end of the book, right here, and pick, if you have a 4x4, you have only one of them, go find the cost for it from the end of the book. Can you guys see that? And then extend it, so whatever that cost is going to be multiplied by 1. And then how many labor for 4x4? You're going to get the labor unit. Where do you get the labor unit from? From the back of the book. They have a labor unit for all these equipments. There you go. So right in this area, you find a labor unit and a price. Grab them from here, put them here, extend them, and add everything. They're giving you the answer at the end, so you can check. So they're giving you the answer. Can you guys see that? The answer way at the end is given, like 8.29 and 1.27 hours. And do it for every, for 2 fluorescent lay-in fixture. They want you to do it for that one, and for the duplicate receptacle, as well as for 1 gang switch, Since it's overwhelming, I don't want you, here's what I want you to do for this, and listen to me carefully. I have answers for them. I want you guys to do only two, write it down, only 2. So we come over here, do the box and the ring, and that's it. Extend the box and the ring. Then you come to this section here. Okay, this section, guys, is easy to fill right here. This section is easy because it's math. You're using these 2 numbers and just adding it here. For extending and coloring, these only use 2, just 2. So take the box 4x4 by the ring, extend them. For this section, when you go to the second one, the same thing. At the top, these use 2, only the box and the ring, extend them. And the second one, only 2, the box and the ring, and extend them. But the bottom stuff, you have to do it. The bottom is math. you're using this number and this number here and applying 5% increase on them, you don't have to add the number of 5%. They should add up. The bottom is just math. Bottom is easy. The top is time consuming, picking up all these stuff. But I want you really to use at least two from each one of them. Cool? The good news is, the reason why I don't care too much about it because when we have a software, you really don't do that. The software picks up all this material directly. Any question, my friend? So by doing the chapter 1 through 5, guys, we're ready now to do the takeoff. What I'm going to do, either tomorrow or on Monday, I'll walk you through the Excel sheet. Again, you're gonna hear a lot of things repetitive. The Excel sheet that we use from A to Z, and that will be the one that you're going to be using for the takeoff. Please read this chapter. If you want to be a project manager, estimator, must. If you don't want to be a project manager, care less about estimating, and you want to be a designer for the rest of your life, read it for your friend Chad. Just to move on.
On their percentages, are they using markups, multipliers, or are they using,
Show me which page are you in?
let's take a look at page 91.
Okay. So labor cost at 1065 at the bottom. So material.
For example, if they say profit 15%,
Yeah.
there's one of two things you can say. You could say multiply your cost by 1.15,
No.
or you can say the profit must be
Gotcha.
15%.
This is how they're doing it. They're assigning a slot for the 15%. So they're actually taking 15% of the even break, what do you call it, the break-even cost. See that right at where the profit is, right above it is the break-even cost, right? Suppose the break-even cost was $100, then you put $15 in that slot, so you can add them at the unit price.
Okay, so that's a markup, but would not represent 15% of the total after you're done.
It will be added after you're done. They just take the 15 and put it. They take the 15% only, not the 1.15. 15%. Exactly like we did, guys. And I see your point, though. They don't. But the way this sheet works is they take the 15%, not 1.15.
Yeah, I mean, it's an academic question, is how.
Yeah.
How
How they do it? Absolutely. Any question, guys? Any question? With this, guys, that will wrap up the 5 chapters. Chapter 6 in this book, take everything that we covered, the 9 steps, to a next level. And take a house. I'll walk you through them next week. Take a house and do the whole steps for a house. Take off. Complete take off. That's what you're going to be doing, guys. Okay. I'm going to stop right here. If anybody have any question.